Okay, so the way this happened was I think you were complaining into the void that growth has slowed or stopped, and WTF, and someone said, "Oh, you should talk to somebody." And one way or another, we got connected into let's do a podcast where you show the entire world all your numbers and travails, and we'll go through it, and I'll be an asshole, and maybe by the end of it, we can figure something out. So here we are, which is very strange. Um, have you ever done anything like this?
No, I think it's like somebody looking at my numbers completely, like open and talking about this. I think it's the first time probably.
Yeah, people are always worried about giving the numbers. I don't know why. Maybe because they're worried that they're not good enough. But what I figure is whatever they are, most people watching don't have numbers that are even that good. So they're impressed and in fact wanting to be inspired by something that you're doing or get to the place where you are. And people that have, let's just say they have a bigger company, which does not mean they're more successful, but let's suppose that's the case. They know how hard it was to get there. They don't look down and say, oh, that's terrible. Oh yeah, I was there. We're the same kind of person. We're connected in a fundamental human way. Anyway, but it's still scary nevertheless because it is. It's
Yeah.
private normally. So what do you want to accomplish today besides the fact that it's not growing? Like, are you looking to grow again? And that's what we want to come away with today is how to do that, or just diagnose it, or what?
It's an interesting question in itself. I am happy to see you. I appreciate taking time to talk and to discuss all this. You're way more experienced in this, and I can learn a lot. So when I posted this post about growth, it was kind of like my recurring topic of the past few months, maybe even more. I don't know, but one of my initial goals was to build business on my own and to have this 10k MRR whatever. And then I reached this goal, and maybe I wasn't ambitious, I don't know, but then I started to grow it, and then I realized, like it's pretty boring. Like it, I noticed that there is no like the growth itself is not growing, and it started to trouble me. Like, is there some fundamental issue? Maybe I can do something because if I project all numbers, I see there will be plateau, and I know right now that I won't be past this plateau. I have kind of new goal, in my mind, I want to reach now 100,000 dollars of MRR, and it feels for me like that having the current numbers, it doesn't lead me to this goal. At least, like, maybe, I don't know, in 5, 10 years, 20 years. Still not bad, still don't complain and super happy about everything, yes. But it feels for me like a real interesting challenge to tackle. And having the partner or somebody with whom I could discuss this and to see, like, on the outside, especially with experience, it would be super helpful. Yeah, so that's maybe
So
like the
you want to get to 100K MRR, but at the current course and speed, you won't get there, and
yeah,
not even close. And so you got to do something different because if you keep doing the same things you're doing, you won't get there.
yes, and maybe there is some maybe
Yeah.
kind of collateral questions to this. Maybe I also could sell it. Maybe I could build a new product. I don't know, but that's like another like philosophical question on
Yeah.
this.
What that does is you're jumping right from the problem to like, what should I do about it? In other words, um,
Mm,
growth has slowed. That's something we have to really understand, like why, what's going on, and then separately the question is, what do you want to do about it? Like one thing you could do is, and so I don't want to do this company ever again. Oh, that's one path to deal with that. Another path is to solve whatever it is we found in the problem of growth. That's another, and indeed keep running the company. That's another solution. But how do you even know what that option is if you haven't identified in detail what's causing the
yeah,
problem with
yeah,
growth, right? So
yeah,
I hear you on that. That's right. But you can't really tackle that until you figure out what the problem is. Now, some people are too dogmatic about this thing where you have to first identify the problem in great detail and
yeah,
only then go do the solutions. Well, I just said that, so like in general, I think that's right. But the way human brains really work is what you just did. When I want to jump to the solution, and then I jump back, but wait a minute, and you can jump back to the problem, and you jump back, and that is how we think, and it's good because one can inform the other. Because, for example, you start saying, well, maybe I'll sell the company. You go down that path, and you realize I would get so little for the company, and I'm just making this up because we haven't talked about it yet. I would get so little for the company. I don't like that. Okay, well, we still go back to identifying the problem, but now you have a renewed motivation to solve the problem because you didn't like one of the other options. So this kind of a path is normal. In general, it is better to figure out what's going on and really get to what some people call the crux of the problem. Like, okay, the general problem is growth is slowed or stopped, but why exactly? Like, what exactly is the challenge that's going on? We get to that because that's the thing to solve specifically, and then we find the solution. That's usually a better path. So it's okay if we bounce around a little, but like in general, that's a better way to organize it. So, do you want me to pull up this dashboard so we can get the general numbers out there?
Yes, let's try. Let's try.
Okay, here we go. So, okay,
Maybe you can scroll.
approximately, which it's not approximately, or is it? Like this is the
Yes,
numbers, right?
most of them are correct numbers.
Okay, well let's just go through it and
Yes,
you can correct
yes.
us wrong. So, the MRR is 32K, which is great. I mean, really, like you just said, when you started the company, you wanted it to get to 10K of MRR. It's three times that. So I guess my first question actually is, what's wrong with that? Like you said, I want to get to 100, but what's wrong with 32?
It's a great question. So, getting to 10K MRR actually was kind of, like identity crisis because I was living in this perpetual identity of achieving this 10K and then I
Right.
achieved it and then I felt like kind of empty. So I kept seeking answers like what can I do next and so on. And I kept improving the product, working on charm, so on and so on. And then I realized, okay, so I started to slowly to realize that my business is separate from me and it can have goals on its own. And for business, it would be better to grow. And because of many reasons like inflation, uh, like if even if I'm not growing in 10 years, probably the money the business earning now, it will be 2 times less of purchase.
Yeah, this isn't the
Already.
reason.
So it's like it's
This is not the reason.
yes,
I'll tell
yes,
you why. I'll tell you why. Because if it were really true that you were happy with 32, except for inflation, then the challenge you would say is, I'm very happy, but I need to grow 3% a year or I won't keep up with inflation. How should I grow 3% a year, you would ask. But you already know how to do that. That's not the problem.
yeah,
That's a rationalization for the actual
yes,
thing
yes,
that you feel. You want to get to 100. That's triple what it is now.
yes, yes,
So to me, when I hear that number, what I hear is over $1 million a year. That's what I heard. That's what you're thinking, right?
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So, but you also said, and I know we'll get to the growth, but you said my whole identity was getting to 10K. I
yes,
got there, and then I felt empty,
yes,
i.e., that wasn't really a fulfilling goal after all. And your
yes.
conclusion after that was, well, when I get to 100, I won't feel empty. It'll be different that time, which it
Uh,
might be because there's another zero. So you might be right, but probably you're wrong.
Yeah, no, 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 no. Here I agree with you. I know that this one will not, like, I will not get fulfilled from this one. But if I separate like business from my identity, like from who I am, and having a separate entity, like business as a separate entity, and
Yeah.
having it's growing for me, it's like it's kind of like a nice challenge, like a nice puzzle to solve, like in that way. Yeah, so it sounds nice, and I'm
I see what
building.
you're saying. You're saying
I agree with you,
you've
yes.
converted your mindset from this is who I am to
Yeah.
I have this thing called a business. It's a game, and it's a good game because it pays me when I do well, and that's a different mindset now. And so it's a healthier mindset where you're not looking for personal fulfillment. So okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I still
Yeah.
kind of don't believe you because I don't know any founder who doesn't care at all. Actually, that's not true. I know some people that flip
Yeah.
things, and I guess they don't care. But I only half believe you. But it's fine. So okay, so there really isn't a reason other than playing the game and making more money. It's not inflation. Is there another reason, or is it just I just want a successful business because that makes me impressive and puts enough money in the bank that I can
Yeah.
let's not say it makes me happy or fulfilled, but let's say it removes all kinds of things that money can fix. Is that it?
Yes, it's interesting. You get pretty quickly to the core, like of the this stuff because I actually don't believe it 100% what I say about like a narrative, but I'm like in the process of building it. Like it's kind of that's one of the reasons like that was original post on X I posted. Yes, it's like contemplating about what I want to do, and it's like it feels like a narrative that pulls me, this one.
Hmm.
And yes, I like actually I'm happy. Like everything is good, like but
No,
okay.
everything's not good, or we wouldn't be talking. Okay, so we'll leave it for now, but you see that this is not clear actually,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the reason it matters is because later on you want to talk about should I sell the company? In other words, do I want to keep playing this game or not? And so
Yeah,
that's when all these questions we're just asking do matter, right? Because
yeah,
if running the company is fulfilling, then selling it may not be, but it could be
right,
vice versa. So these things do matter later. Like
yeah,
they don't necessarily matter in terms of diagnosing what's happening with growth, but they will matter later, and it just gives me some context of how you're thinking. So okay, I think I understand enough. So you have 1,000 customers and
yes,
a third of a million in annual revenue, 32K in MRR, and it's very profitable, of course, because I'm guessing it's just you. There's no employees, and so this is just normal business expenses,
yes,
or maybe there's a consultant, or what is the few expenses that result in that profit?
yes, yes. Currently, it's like infrastructure, servers,
Yeah.
many SaaS tools, and some marketing. Yes.
So not people.
No, not, not
Yeah.
for now.
When you say I want to get to 100K, are you thinking and still have no employees?
Uh, it doesn't matter. I think it's.
It doesn't
I think.
matter. It does matter.
No, no. I mean, like, if it would be, let's say, it can be with employees. Yes, it can be. It can be
Well, but two
because
minutes ago, were you thinking that you needed to hire someone soon?
no, no.
Hmm. Why not?
Why not to hire? Mm,
You have the money.
why not to hire? Like because I don't feel there is a need. It's
Yes, there is. You just said there's a huge problem, which is you're not growing, and
yeah,
you want to triple the company, and it's not growing at all. There's obviously a need, but you didn't think another person could be helpful in that. Whether that other person is focused on growth, like marketing, or whether that person is focused on tech, so that you could focus on marketing. Regardless, that did not cross your mind. Which is interesting because it tells me like that's not the way you're thinking of solving the problem. And maybe you're right, maybe not. Maybe it makes sense to go solo to 100. I mean, especially nowadays, that's more possible than ever, I think. But I'm just trying to get a sense of how you're thinking about it. Like if you
yeah,
had three people, if it was 100K and you had three people that you worked with, and let's even suppose you liked them, just for fun,
yeah.
does that sound good? Or you're like, that's not what I meant.
Yes, yes. I'm a bit afraid. Yes, I'm a bit
Yeah.
afraid of this.
Um,
Yeah,
and sometimes the issue with is we don't know what they would do. In other words, like I didn't hire someone because I don't know what to tell, I don't know who I would hire or what I would tell them to do, which again is going back to like I'm not actually sure what the problem is, so I don't know what I'm solving.
yeah, yeah. Yes.
Maybe, but that's not emphatic, so maybe not. Of course, I see the revenue churn at 9%, and I can already tell that that's my main problem. Maybe you've already come to that conclusion. Let's find out. Now, here's what's funny. I'm looking here at this MRR growth chart, and what I see is growth. Now, this is a 1 year chart, right?
Yes.
12 months?
Yes. Yes. 12
Okay,
months.
and so all I see is it's going up with occasional bouts of not going up.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I have several questions. One is, it's been going up for 6 months straight, and then you had 1 month where it went sideways, and your conclusion is it's not growing anymore. But what I see is 5 out of the last 6 months it grew. So
No,
why are
no,
you saying it's not growing anymore?
no, no. It was about the. It's maybe because of my language or how I speak. It was about the growth of growth, like the growth itself. Like every month, the product is adding like $1,000 monthly. Yes, on average. Yes, and then the growth itself like zero. This the growth of growth. Yes, so it's like
Yeah, I understand.
that's what I mean. Like that's not the MRR itself. Yes.
Yeah, we call that acceleration,
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Getting faster and faster.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But that doesn't usually happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Usually
It
growth is
doesn't.
linear.
Okay, but that's
there's a lot of startups that I mean, not a whole lot, but there's dozens of startups of this general size that have shared their numbers,
Yes.
and you've probably seen them. What generally happens is it looks like a line, and then
Yes.
sometimes there's a bend in the line, like something structurally has changed and the line bends, but then it's still a line again.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Now, where you see something more like acceleration is huge runaway successes, Facebook or whatever. We're like, all right, it's accelerating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure, but like you don't necessarily expect to do that.
It's interesting what are you saying right now. It's like I have inflated expectations in a sense. That's what you
Yeah.
say. Like that doesn't like you say that usually that doesn't happen. So, but why? Like, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, okay, there's why, but like before we get to why, like you're saying it's important that growth accelerate, and yet your growth is fine and normal, but you're just not happy with that unless it accelerates, or did you just not know that?
Yes, it was like if we take this initial goal of that maybe like that maybe I don't believe fully yes about 100k that I was working backwards from it. Yes, like if I want to reach this number,
Oh, you
and
just won't get there fast enough. Yeah, yeah, I understand what you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay,
so
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 here's just some data. So this is an article of mine, so that's very self-serving to do that, but whatever, because this is some of the data. So here's Pally's for your MRR. So it's flat,
yes,
and then it's something, but look at that something. It's like a line. In fact, it looks like
yeah,
yours, like close enough. Up, 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 up,
yeah,
up. Oh, a little flat period. Up, up, up. Right? That's kind of like
yeah,
you. By the way, this is a million MRR. That's what that is. And then
beautiful.
here's ConvertKit. And I mean, yes, they had this big growth swing, but look, for a long, long time, years, it's this linear thing. And then even when it bends, it's a new line. See, it's still a line. That's okay. So that's a very fast growing line. Fantastic. But it's not, it did accelerate at this one point, but then it would turn into a line again, just at a much faster pace. That would get you to 100K in MRR, a faster pace of growth, but not necessarily constantly accelerating. Here's another
Yeah,
one. This is ConvertKit later on, just to see it. Look at it. Look how straight a line. This is like 10 years,
yes, yes,
right? I mean, that's very, very a straight line, except for a change, which I think is what you're saying is you want this change, this bend
yeah,
in the curve, right? Okay, so that's enough of that. I just wanted to show you what I meant.
yes, yes, yes. I
So
see, I see. It's
yeah, so
yes,
so I look at your graph and you don't have the bend. This is the issue. If we showed a longer picture of this,
yes,
it's what you said. Like you're saying, look, I'm adding net $1,000 of MRR per month. So I'm just seeing like, all right, so in a year it's 12, and so if I just stack 12s on top of each other, that's too many years, and also that's not what's going to happen over that time frame. And also your cancellation rate sets a cap, which I think you know already because you have a thing here. New MRRs colliding with churn. You want to explain that?
Um, yes, yes, it's the moment when approximately the number of revenue, churning revenue, and growth like will annihilate each other, like in a sense
Yeah.
that they will be like if I keep growing with the same rate and my churn keeps up, like at some moment it will be like zero. It will be like I cannot add some MRR. So this is approximately at 40k, this number. So even if I continue to grow, I will anyway. I cannot go to 100k.
Yeah, yeah. So this is a way for other people who are listening to understand this. If marketing is adding 1K of MRR per month in new revenue, but cancellation is 9%, let's say, as the company gets bigger and bigger, that 9% is 9% of a bigger and bigger number. But marketing is still putting in 1K, 1K, 1K each month. But the churn is going up every month because the company's growing, and 9% of a bigger number is a bigger number. So effectively, the dollars of churn go up every month because of this 9%. But marketing is not going up every month, it's just staying at 1K. So at some point, you're at a size where number of customers or revenue, either one, that walks out the door in churn is equal to the amount that that new revenue that marketing is bringing in, and at that point the company is literally not growing. And you're saying that's at 40K MRR, which makes sense to me. And a simple formula to derive this, by the way, which you probably know because you made this
Yes.
this chart, is you take your MRR and you divide it by, or sorry, you take your new MRR every month and you divide it by your cancellation rate. So if you have 1K MRR and you divide it by the cancellation rate of 9%, that's actually much worse. So I'm guessing 1% is probably net of cancels, or I'm sorry, that $1,000 is net of cancels. I'm guessing more than that comes in, and that net of cancels, it's one. Yeah, here it is. June, it's 3K. That's right. So 3K of MRR comes in,
Yeah.
but at 9%, so divided by 9%, and you get about 30, 40K in MRR, which is about where you are. And that's why this chart was flat, because you brought in 3K, but 3K left. And you're saying, yeah,
Yeah.
even in other months, this is still the case. And so I can't ever get past this because of that 9% cancellation, which that's the first thing my eyes went to is this revenue is so high, there's no way you can grow past a very small limit. So you've seen the same thing. So the obvious question is, why is your cancellation rate so high?
Yes. It's a good one. It's a good one.
Well, what's the answer?
Um, it might be a few reasons.
Well, what do you mean
Well,
might be?
yes. Like, yes, I don't know for sure. I don't know. Yes.
Why?
Why I don't know for
No one ever
sure.
talks to you when they leave? You don't
No, no,
ask?
they leave. They have answers, but I assume, uh, but let's say I trust this like 99%. Like I have, like people leave answers, and actually I shared them also, but like there is two layers to that. For example, uh, I can say that the reason of churn because people having they say that they have short-lived use case. They just
Hmm.
use product for some some feature of theirs. I don't know, uploaded some file and then just canceled.
Right.
And or I can say that the reason initially that I was somehow attracting this type of customers. Yes, so it's like so it's a bit mixed, but because I have like from what I see, I have the most charm on the smallest plants, like on the cheapest plants, and like so maybe it's not so maybe it's not initially was a good fit for this kind of product. That's like what I think globally maybe yes, but if I check per reasons, there are like many and many of them, and the most popular one like written manually by many people, and it's like they just needed product for a month for some feature for some project something like that. Yes.
So when you say temporary slash no longer needed, those are not the same thing. So in other words, there's a really big difference between a person who says, I know going into this that I need it for 2 weeks, and a
Yes.
person who says, I've been using this for 2 years, but now I don't need it anymore, presumably because some project ended.
Yes. Yes. I agree with
So
you.
do you have a sense of how this splits? Is it mostly temporary, or is there a lot of people who use it for 2 years and then don't need it anymore?
The latter. um Yes, yes. I think it's mostly temporary will be for
Yeah.
this one, because I know like I have many customers who are still using the product for like more than 2 years, but
Hmm.
many of these, yes, yes, intuitively, yes, I cannot back up with numbers, yes, but it
And
was
when it's
mistake.
temporary, how quickly do they leave typically?
Oh, I think it would be something between 1 to 3 months, something like that. It might be even
Okay.
just a month, like just subscribe and use
So
the
one
product.
thing that would be really good to do is to segment your customers in, let's say, the first 100 days and everything else as two different segments, because what's
Mm.
happening is all this stuff. Now, whether that's okay or not, or good or bad, even setting that aside for a minute, that's most of the people that are going through the product. Like just adding up the temporary and the free plan is enough and this kind of stuff, it's like already 50%. So so that's drowning out the other metrics, which are also important, which is when it's not temporary and they use it all the time. and they've used it for a year. In other words, when it seems like an ideal customer, that
Yes.
data and that those effects are being drowned out by the people where, again, it's not necessarily a problem. It's just that it's not this ideal, sustainable business. And so, not right now, obviously, but in future, that would be a good idea to completely segment those customers so you
Yeah.
can get information about when it's temporary. What is that about? Is it certain kinds of use cases? Do I get those customers in certain channels? Am I saying the wrong thing? Am I attracting the wrong thing? Is it fine? It's just they're just not long-term customers, and I should have a either a different sort of an offering, like maybe a different price point. There's like the 100-day plan or something where they pay a certain amount. It's more like one-time revenue because that's what they actually want. Or
Yeah.
maybe don't do that, but segment them anyway, just so that you're not worried when they cancel. You're like, I expected that, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
would tune things like, well, how much can I spend on things like marketing or even tech support on a person that is definitely going to churn in the next 100 days, definitely. And you go, a little bit, but very little, right? Because this is not a lot of revenue, and I have to think of it like one-time revenue because it effectively is. And so I have to, the rest of my business metrics or business decisions have to be aligned with that. But then there's these other kinds of customers where I do expect them to be with me for years. And so I can afford more spend to acquire them. I can afford to work with them more in support. Maybe there's integrations they want help with that's very technical. But that's worth it because that means they're here for 3 years because they've built you into some system that they have, some permanent system. So it's worth it. So you want to be able to segment them so that you can react and behave and spend money separately, and that's hard. Like maybe you have to ask ahead of time, even if this is just in the product, what this is for or what this is like, so that you can know ahead of time. Because people just sign up. How would you know? Well,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you could
Yeah.
ask them what it's for, or what they're doing, this and that. You also could have different pricing plans that would naturally self-select people, so that the people who, for whom they know it's temporary, it would be more attractive for them to pick a certain pricing plan. And then for people where it's where it's long term, there would be a different pricing plan that would be attractive to them, and then they somewhat segregate. That would be good. So there's different ways. Again, not just jumping right to the conclusions, of course, but there's different ways to figure out what that segmentation is, because
Yeah.
it may be that on the temporary, all you can afford to do is stuff that's incrementally free, not free, but incrementally free, like social media and SEO, where of course it's not free either in time or money, but getting one more person to see it is free, as opposed to advertisement, where that probably doesn't work for the temporary customer. There's just no price that's not ridiculous, where you can afford to buy customers that are going to spend a total of $20, right?
Yeah.
But you could afford to buy someone that's going to spend thousands of bucks. So, do you have a sense right now of what those use cases or those things might be, or is that just an interesting homework problem for the rest of today and tomorrow?
Use cases for customers who would stay or for customers who are leaving?
Both, of course.
For both. Yes, yes, I have examples of this.
Well, what's a category? Like, think about the customers who stay forever and are happy.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's not just one kind, but what's an example of why that is? What have they done, generally speaking?
What have they done?
Like, why are they using it forever? Did they build it into, for example, what one answer could be
Yeah.
sometimes the act of taking a screenshot on the web gets built into a feature in a product that they sell their customers. So, unless they rip that feature out, they're going to be a customer forever. And they certainly don't want to build all that infrastructure themselves. That's a distraction. They've got their own product to work on. They don't want to do
Yes,
this. This is
yes, yes.
hard. But since it's a built in feature, like they're just going to stay forever unless they rip the feature out, which typically features are not ripped out. Therefore, they stay forever. And so, in that case, the generalization would be people who build in screenshots as part of the product that they themselves sell.
Yes, yes.
So
These
that
are,
might be an example. Is that an example?
yeah,
And are there other examples of categories like that?
this one, like, one of the stickiest ones are these that you described, and also there is kind of category For example, I have a company who are screenshotting hundreds, thousands of websites after deploying updates and then checking if there are any changes and then reverting back their deploys. So it's kind
Ah,
of it's not like the main feature, but it's like it's very important for them, and they don't want to spend on this kind of task. Like it's like secondary importance. I don't know how to say it.
okay,
Like
that's called integration testing,
yeah,
or end-to-end testing, something like that. Okay, it do people build it into products like I said, or did I just make that up and that's not what ever happens?
no, it's not. This one is not like a part of the product. I think it's like but for
Okay, that
that,
never happens. Besides integration testing,
oh,
what's another example of a category that actually does happen among the people who stay forever?
to stay forever. For example, companies. A few examples, I think. Company that are just sending cold emails, and in cold emails, it's like one of their main features. And in cold emails, they have templates for, let's say, cold email with a screenshot in it of the prospect website and
Ah,
show something about it. And it's like one of the main features, let's say, of such a customer. Yeah, so it's like maybe one of the top three, top five features of such a customer.
gotcha. So someone's doing some kind of personalized automation campaign like cold emailing, and
Yeah,
part of how
yes,
you
yes,
get someone's attention is you put their screenshot of their website in the email, whether
yes,
just to get their attention or because you're pointing something out or something like that. In the same way that people say, although I disagree with this, but there's that thing that where you're supposed to use the other person's name when you all the time,
yes,
because that means because they like it. I just think that's weird, and then I think
yes,
you're doing that on purpose, and that means I don't trust you. And so to me, it has the opposite effect. But okay, this is kind of like that. If you show me my own stuff, then it seems more personalized in any way. Maybe I'll look at it and like it. Doesn't seem quite so cold of an
yes,
email.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
so integration testing of websites or web apps, who knows? Cold, or well, things where you want to customize some kind of outbound like emails
yes, yes,
with their website. Okay, is there any other things,
yes.
any other categories among the people that stay forever?
Uh, like forever, yes, it's a dream. But for example, in some in some SaaS products, in onboarding sessions, where they need to fetch like company website and extract some colors from it and to personalize their SaaS for this for their customer and to speed up onboarding. Yes. Oh,
That
like
sounds really cool, but I would be shocked if you had 100 customers doing that.
no, not a hundred. Yes, it's like I think about use cases where like I know like customers who are still using the product and it's like
Yeah, but how
they're
many people do that? The onboarding sessions with the colors. How many people do that?
yes, it's not a lot. Yes, it's
Is it
not a
more
lot.
than one?
Yes, yes.
Is it two?
It feels for me it's like, yes, it's a good question. It's a good question.
Okay, so the
I
answer is it's
know.
not 10. Okay,
Yeah, yes,
so that one
yes,
that one's fine. I mean, I mean, of course, there's going to be one-off cases, which is awesome. They just won't be patterns that you can easily.
yes.
They'll be
Yeah,
easy to exploit. These other
yeah,
ones feel a lot more exploitable to me. This one sounds really fun, actually, really interesting, great idea. It just doesn't feel like something that's
yes, yes.
widespread. That would be easy to scale or something. Okay, so but we should spend our time mostly on the successes and getting more of them, because we could talk about why people do things temporarily, but my guess is there's a huge number of reasons why people do things temporarily. Like, why do I need a screenshot for a few weeks and not again? I mean, there's probably infinite reasons, even including just hobbyists doing weird stuff with AI and stuff that are just trying crap. Like, there's probably all
Yes.
kinds of reasons. And in a certain sense, it doesn't matter because you don't want any of them as customers.
Hmm.
Now,
Yes,
it's
yes,
okay that they sign up, but they're going to sign up and leave. And so for your goal of getting to 100K, right? Or really even just a goal of not capping out at your current size, right? Like the even
yes,
setting the 100K aside, just saying, I just don't want to stop growing like I am. Like just even without a goal of where it should be. These people that come in for 2 months and leave are not going to be the solution.
No, no, it can be once, like, yes, it can be some nice one-time revenue, having
Right.
this,
But they're
maybe
not going
even,
to be how you grow because
yeah,
you can't afford to spend time to get them because they
yeah,
don't give you any money.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
So so that's why there's probably, hundreds of use cases, and it kind of doesn't matter because that's not what you want to do. It's okay when they
yeah,
show up and they leave, especially if you've segmented your metrics so that you're not getting confused as to what metrics and activities are important for you to focus on to get the actual goal, which is people that stay a long time, because that's where the growth is going to come from. That's how you're
yeah.
going to get cancellation rate down, right? Versus all these people. So I'll just take the integration testing for the web, for websites. How many software companies do integration testing of some kind with either a website because it's marketing or a website because it's some web app, and they're doing some kind of integration testing? Maybe it's in a continuous integration server, maybe it's manual, maybe it's a QA team, but somebody's doing that. How many software companies, let's just say, I mean, I don't want to be too America centric, but how many companies, let's say in America, do you think there are, as a power of 10 only, who do integration tests right now with websites?
I think this is a lot, but this one specific, like the moment you said about like numbers, how many, like we talked about forever customers, yes, but how many of them I have? Like this one specific use case, it's not even like any random company that's doing integration testing, but they're like more like a hosting provider, So it's like it's much less than any company that's doing integration testing. It's a company that hosts hundreds of websites, thousands of websites, yes. And then this number is interesting.
Okay, well, let's focus on that then. This is bad
Yeah,
news,
yeah.
of course, but how many how
Yes.
many how many companies in the world do you think host at least 100 websites and thus might want something like this? Potentially, they just potentially might want it. That we don't know if they do, but just they're at least in the category where they might want to use screenshots to make sure they haven't screwed anything up during a deploy or whatever the use case is for the integration testing. Just as a power of 10, how many companies do you think there are that have more than 100 websites that they're hosting?
I feel there is no more than 1,000 hosting providers in the world. It feels
That's
like
not true.
you think it's more. You know for sure. Probably yes. But it feels for me like I can probably tell 50 maybe. It's like counting AWS and many other companies like
Those
big.
are the largest ones in the world, but that's not what I
Yes, yes,
said.
yes, yes, yes. But for this like and then it feels like
I went to a bootstrapping conference called Microconf that I'm sure you know, and there were
yeah.
several people at that conference alone who had hosting companies with more than 100 websites in it. And those are little bootstrappers going to a conference. So yeah, there's AWS, but I mean,
Yes, yes. I meant like if I take the top ones and then I go to the smallest companies, it feels.
let's just call it 10,000 because there are more than 1,000, but let's not assume there's just 100,000. That sounds like a lot. So let's
Yeah.
call it 10,000, right?
Let's say 10. Okay, okay.
Yeah, getting 1% of them to do integration testing like this sounds hard, but may be
Yeah.
plausible. Does that sound fair?
If there's 10,000 of them.
No, forget that. We already said there's 10,000. We're just saying that.
Yes, yes, yes,
Now,
yes.
however many there are, does it sound plausible that maybe we could get 1% of them, however many there are, we could get 1% of them maybe to be convinced that they should use some kind of screenshotting technology as part of the deploy, presumably to say screenshot, let's say 100 sample websites of that you're hosting, run your deploy, then screenshot them again and make sure nothing's changed. Roughly speaking, because we all know that's not quite how websites work. But let's keep it simple, just for discussion's sake.
Yes, yes,
That's a
yes.
good idea. We actually do that at WP Engine, by the way, so it's a good idea.
Yeah.
What do you think? Maybe 1% of people who have this problem could be convinced theoretically that that's a good idea for them to implement.
Yes, yes. I think I could use already. I have customer stories related to this.
Okay, so 1%.
Really happy customers.
Okay,
I
do
could
you think
use
you could
that.
get
Yes.
10% of them to say yes to that and actually implement it? This is every hosting company in the world with more than 100 websites.
It's a very good question. It's a very good question. Yes. 10%. I would need to try at least to reach out to a few of them to see
Hmm.
like like to see how they respond, like how they work, and like their like approval process. How do they integrate? Because
Well, let's put it this way. They can't
yes,
just buy your software. They have to build a whole integration system
yes,
or retrofit their existing one in a significant way. This isn't like a quick afternoon, right?
yes, yes. There's a
So
lot of work.
can we reach out, talk to, and then convince 10% of the market, however big the market is, to do all that?
Yes, if I could solve already a lot of like integration issues around this, that when you integrate my product, yes, and assist them maybe and provide some like more features to make integration smoother. Yes, yes.
Really, 10%.
No, no, no. Then the number itself, I don't know.
Well, that's all I'm
I'm
asking.
just,
Can you get to 10%
yeah.
of the market, you think?
Um, I feel it's pretty painful problem for them. Should
Yes, but that's not the question.
I mean, like, I'm trying to see like how is it really possible to sell to them like by reaching out
That's
like
not the question whether it's possible to sell. I'm assuming it is
no,
possible, but like,
you
can
start.
we convince 10% of the market to build an integration testing system or retrofit their existing one around screenshots?
Yes, yes,
Really?
yes.
Okay. I would be shocked if you could get 10% of the market.
No, no, it's not. You said could we convince to do them this? Yes, like
Yeah, I would be shocked if you could convince them, 10% of the market, to implement all this because it's a lot of work and but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the after all, WP Engine did it, so we had the pain. So maybe I'm wrong, and like at a certain scale, you just have to, and this is an easier way. So I hear that. So I would guess it's 1%, but it's 10%. Let's say it's 10%. It's not 100%. We can definitely agree on that.
no,
So
no.
it's 10%.
Even
Okay, so
even
so
ten
there's
percent.
10,000 customers or potential customers, and maybe you could get to 1,000 of them, and then each of them pay what? What are the customers paying for this per month?
Let's say
It's just the
like
power of 10.
power of 10.
Do they pay $100 a month, $10 a month, $1,000 a month?
Yes, it's between 100 and 1,000.
Okay, and so 300.
For example, yes.
Okay, so if 1,000 customers were paying $100 a month, that's your 100K MRR.
Yes, yes.
So we just figured out a path to 100K MRR is that you have 1,000 small hosting companies. Obviously, if you can get a big one that's paying you more, that's good, right? We're not saying don't do that, right? That's not what we're saying.
Yes, yes,
It's just that
yes.
like you can't depend on that as easily. But if you could get 1,000 small hosting companies to implement this, you would reach your goal of 100K MRR on that basis alone.
Yes.
Now, again, I think 10% is too high, but still, what we've done by doing this is we've established that this is a path that's plausible. Plausible doesn't mean likely or unlikely.
Uh,
It just means it's possible, given what we
yeah.
said. It is at least possible. Most of the ideas that you or I would have for how to grow a screenshot API company, most of them will not even plausibly work. In fact, I think this one probably does not plausibly work because I don't believe in the 10%
Uh,
number,
no,
right?
I just I just wanted to go with you, like to resort to explore this area, but it
Yeah,
feels
yeah.
like
So I think it's probably more like 1%, in which case it's another 10K a month, which is still not trivial, but pretty far away from the kind of change you want. And so
Yes.
while it could be good to have, so what that would tell me, if you believe those numbers, then with that downgrades it from the complete strategy of the company, that which it would be if you think it can achieve the goal by itself. It
Yes.
downgrades that idea to this is a decent idea, but only if I apply a certain amount of time and money. So if this is a certain marketing campaign, maybe even a outbound sales campaign specifically to those kind of companies, and I cannot afford to make 10 new features and lots of custom work for them, but I can do a little bit to gain that 10K of MRR.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the amount of effort I'm willing to put into this, and I still have not solved my root problem, but maybe I've pushed it down the road a little. That's how I would think about that if those are the numbers. So the point, of course, is that we're obviously not going to automatically find all the right answers on the call today. That would be very lucky if we did. But this kind of mindset is how you can
Yes,
have an
yes.
idea of like, okay, who are my good customers that I'm already able to serve? That's what we first did. We said this web integration. We said the cold email content and stuff like that. And then what is the possible, even possible market for this that I could get? And then if I do those numbers, is it even in the ballpark of the result that I want? If it's not even within a power of 10 of the bulk of what I want, then even if it's just too, it's not the answer,
I have a
right? The
clear.
numbers are just too small. Now, obviously, we made up all those numbers and they're not exactly right, of course. But if
Yes.
it's off by a whole power of 10, it's just wrong. It's just not the likely way forward. So let's try it again with the custom emails, just to run it again. So of course, it doesn't have to be emails, but that does seem like the most common thing because if I'm calling on the phone, I don't know what I need a screenshot for exactly. So this case of I'm doing outbound emails and I want to include a screenshot for whatever reason to get their attention or it's relevant, whatever.
Yes.
How many companies, for how many companies does it make sense for them to include a screenshot? Maybe they don't do it today, of course, but that it would make sense for them to do that. How many companies do you think do that? Obviously, millions of companies send emails. So that's a
Yeah.
very, very big number. But how many of them want to include a screenshot, do you think?
It's a good one because I have like two different types of customers doing that. But if we talk about forever customers, like customers who perpetually like,
That's all we're talking about because anything
yeah,
else is
yeah,
not something you can afford to invest in, whether
yes,
that
yes,
means
yes,
marketing, whether that means ads, whether that means support, whether that means adding features. You can't
yeah,
afford, in that sense, to to do stuff for customers that don't stay. So
yes,
they're fine. We're happy if they come and they give us some money and they leave, as long as we didn't spend money on them, and as long as their metrics don't poison the metrics of our ideal real customers, then we're okay with it. But we're not focused on them. Can't be. That's not how you're going to get to where you want to be, of course, because their cancellation rate is atrocious, and that means you're never going to build the kind of business you want off of that. So
yes,
the
yes.
customers who do the emails, how many really want to do that forever?
I also want to answer something like 1,000, but yeah, but I don't have many of these too. You know, like it's
Yeah.
like if you go category by category, by use case by use case,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I have like one. I need to check this. I need to for sure
Well,
I need to
if
look.
there was an obvious one, you'd know. Just
Yeah,
by because you wouldn't need data to know if one
yeah,
jumped out
yeah,
at you,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we don't have to go through that. A thousand is so low that that tells me you don't think people do this really,
Mm,
because that's like 0.001% of all companies who send emails want to do it this way, which is you're probably right. In other words, people just don't want to do this, and you can find every once in a while you can find a strange company that does it, but like this is not this is not something to build a
it's
business around,
very
is what I'm
specific.
hearing from you.
Yes, yes. It's like, for example, you want to email potential prospects about like how you want to improve their design of the
No, I
website.
get it, but when you
But
say a
yes,
thousand companies in the whole world would want to do it, You're telling
Yeah.
me either this is so rare it's that just it's just silly to even talk about it, or you're just so not confident that this is something that people would want even if you tried to sell it to them.
Yes, I feel that there's not so many companies that really do it.
Yeah.
But those who are doing this, like they're forever customers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once we start with a number like 1,000, that's the entire market. And again, you might be wrong, but the point is, if that's your conviction, it's there you go, like close enough. Um,
Yeah.
then it doesn't really matter what the other numbers are. How many can you convert at what price? It doesn't matter because it's just not enough. Like your whole company's 1,000 customers now, so
Yes.
like that
Yes.
just isn't going to do it. So so all right, so let's take a step back and say, all right, there isn't a use case that's a healthy use case in a clear market that you can go target. There's just a bunch of scattered stuff people sometimes do with screenshots. There
Yes.
isn't really a pattern that leads to a market big enough to get to your goal. Is that possible?
This is the this is one of the scariest questions, but still need to ask. Yes, it might be the real question. Like maybe
I think it's
I
more than
don't,
it
I don't
might be a
know.
real question. I think it's the problem. I think the crux of the problem is there isn't a big pull for getting screenshots via API. That's just not something that's very important to a really clear area of the market who needs to do that forever. It doesn't mean nobody wants it. People want it. You listed use cases where people want it, sometimes temporarily,
Yes,
sometimes
yes,
permanently. It does exist. It's not like there's never a problem to solve. That's not the case. It's just there isn't a clear market where here's a use case where literally a million people do it, and so if you can definitely get a nice chunk of them. It's valuable to them, so they'll pay more. They'll do it forever. I know, of course, forever is a big word. I'm just, I'm trying to be
yes, yes.
brief about, about it. If until further notice, they'll do it because it's integrated with something important to them, and it's just hard to see what that is, and you're not seeing a pattern with your current customer base that would identify that. So, how old is the company?
4 years.
4 years. So in four
Yeah.
years, and many, many thousands of customers, because there's 1,000 now, but they've come and
Yeah.
gone as well. In
Yeah.
4 years of experience doing nothing but this and seeing thousands and thousands of customers come through, you have yet to find an example of a use case where there's a decent number of customers in the world for that use case who want this and want it for more than a few months. Is that true?
Yes, it's pretty close. Yes, every time I try something new and I have this big hope, like, oh, maybe there is new, like for example, AI agents now. Every agent needs screenshots. Yes,
We're getting distracted now with AI.
yes, yes. But
You have yet to find it in 4 years, right?
but if you look at
No,
the
I understand what you're
yes,
saying,
yes,
but right
yes,
now, you have yet to find it, right?
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes,
So this to me is but before we get to the solutions in AI, maybe AI changes stuff. Maybe it does, but before we get to whether AI is changing it, right now, you have not found a way, or you have not found a market that cares enough to sustain this company in the way that you want to, which is to triple it. What you have done is built a company where probably you could continue running it just as you are now. And let's see, let's go up to these things. I'm guessing you could run a company where this and this. In other words, I bet you could run a company that makes, let's just call it 25K per month in profit, maybe 30K per month in profit for years to come. Because you could just do what you're doing now. There would be a lot of temporary people coming in and out. But that's okay. If sometimes people will stick because they have a weird ass use case that almost no one has, but they do, so they stick. Hooray! And so you stay at this, let's say, 30 to 40K a month top line, 25 to 30K a month bottom line. You stay there because people still need screenshots. It's just scattered like it is now, and you just continue. And of course, incrementally you'll improve it. Incrementally, You might save some money, some costs, and make profit go up. Incrementally, you might make a feature that makes more people stickier. Um, you might
Yeah.
find like some of these use cases we identified, you could do some campaigns specifically for them and maybe pick up another 10, 20, even 100 customers in that use case. So again, that's not tripling the company, but you could probably pick up some other good customers intentionally, getting closer to that 40, maybe even 45, 50, pushing up a little by having better, higher quality customers, at least some of them. I totally believe that. This is a path. So let's call this option A. Option
Yeah.
A is you look at this, the crux of the problem, which again I think is there isn't a good market for this. There's not
Yeah.
a market, meaning customers who have a like a sort of consistent sort of problem that they want to solve in this way. There's enough of them. They want to pay enough. All this kind of stuff I listed before. That's what I mean by a good market. There isn't a good market for this tool. Again, this is a crux of the puzzle. I might be wrong, and like you're about to say, AI may change it. I know. We'll get to that in a second. But first, let's really agree on what is the crux of the current issue. So I'm proposing that the crux is this thing of there isn't a good market. We have not, in 4 years and thousands of customers, it is not a good market is not materialized, which tells us either it doesn't exist or it's so hard to find we can't find it. Option A is yeah, that's right. There isn't one. Continue to run the company, like I said, incrementally improving, being a little bit smarter, maybe targeting a couple of use cases to just change the customer mix a little, to bump it up a little, and in this way, incrementally improve the company. That's option A, incremental improvement. But actually, let me pause there. Do you agree that that's the crux? No good market is materialized, or do you not agree that that's the crux of the problem?
I feel that I feel that it might be true intuitively because if I
Well,
found
let's put
some
it this way: you can't
yes,
name one. This whole
yes,
conversation, you haven't
yes,
named one yet.
yes,
So
yes, yes. Yes, and that's why like it feels for me like no, because I would have one use case dominating. I would see it, and it would be easier for me to double down. And
exactly.
yes, yes,
Well, that's why it's a crux because if it were obvious and easy, you'd be doing it
yeah,
already, like you just said. The fact is, it's not there, and so you're sitting there going, "It's not there. I don't. I'm stuck. I'm stuck because it's you
yes,
clearly just doing the same thing that you're doing now will not achieve 100K in revenue in MRR,
well,
and it's not obvious what to do. Like that is the crux. I don't know what to do because there's no good markets I have found yet. So option
yeah,
A is incrementally running the company. Another possibility is there is a good market out there for this, but you haven't found it yet, which means to find it, you will need to go do something intentionally that you are not currently doing. You can't just sit back and look at your customer base and say, "Where's the good market?" You have to go seek it or even create it. This is another possibility. So it could be let's talk about the integration testing again. I could make the case anyone with a website in marketing should be doing this. They have a marketing website. Marketers change websites all the time. They run A/B tests. They change headlines. They add a new landing page. They do something weird with the homepage. They screw with the pricing page, and even more subtle things. And they don't want anything else to break as a result of them doing the one thing. So they should have some sort of what engineers would call integration test. They would not call it that because they're marketers. And you could say, there's 10 million marketing departments in the world. They all ought to do integration testing. They don't. I'm not saying I can take 10% of the market or anything nutty like that, but I think I could be the champion of marketers actually doing regression testing. I'm going to bring regression testing to the world of marketing. We understand it in software why to do it. Marketers should do it, but they don't know that yet. So I'm going to educate them. I will be the one, Prometheus, bringing the fire of regression testing to the world of marketing. And so I'll have a product for that. It'll involve screenshots, and in doing that, I'll literally create a new little category in marketing. That'll just be me until other people realize it's a good idea, but that's okay. And why screenshots? Because maybe I should be looking at the content of the page. The thing is, you can look at the HTML, you can look at the CSS, you can look at JavaScript, you can have AI do it, and at the end of the day, you don't actually don't know what it looks like.
Yeah.
Stuff happens. A lot of that code, by the way, is dynamic and does weird real-time stuff. So you can't look at the source code. You got to look at the website. In fact, with the tool, really, I'm making this up now because it's just an example, right?
Yes,
In
of course.
fact, what you need to do is show a before and after screenshot and show that to the marketer and maybe show them 10 pages of that, 10 pages that they've configured as being important. And the human being is going to look at them because sometimes web pages are different simply because they're dynamic. So just asking, is the page different, is actually also not sufficient
Yeah,
because
yeah.
let's say an image rotates on the home page, or there's a video, so the exact frame the video's on depends on when you take the screenshot, or JavaScript is pulling something live, and so there's all these reasons why it's not identical, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And a human being would know that if they saw the before after, they would see the differences, maybe even highlight them for the human, and the human could tell whether that's okay or not. And so it does take that human still. Maybe it's AI in the future. I don't care. So I'm going to build a product that does all that and bring it to marketing. Now, is that a good idea? Do marketers care? Could you convince them of that? Could you make a good product that marketers could use, given that you're an API company today? These are all questions I don't know the answers to. Maybe the whole idea is stupid. But what I'm saying, but the point is that this is an option B. Option B is rather than, I mean, obviously run the company you have now because it's paying the bills and everything. So, I mean, don't just stop. But option B is, in order to achieve my goal, I have to build a different product, but I need to take my expertise and technology that I have into that because that's whatever that is going to be part of my strategic advantage is my experience, knowledge, tech, etc. Obviously, I have to leverage that. What is a market that exists or that I think I actually could create that that would that would leverage that into a product that doesn't exist, or even if it exists a little bit, that that you could make a good one of.
Yes, yes.
So maybe that marketing idea is good, maybe it's bad. I don't know.
Yes,
But this is
yes.
option B: is find another market that's actually good. Now, how does that strike you? Like when I say all that stuff, emotionally, is your reaction, hell yeah, like APIs are, that's what I know, but god damn it, it's dead. Like that sounds so fun. Or is your reaction something more like, yeah, I get it. And if I were outgoing and I liked talking to people and I liked being an evangelist for a new idea, I could see that, I guess, but like I just want to be in the background doing APIs under the hood, talking to engineers, just going on Twitter and yapping with other indie developers rather than selling to marketers. I don't even trust marketers. I wouldn't like selling to marketers. Now, obviously, these two emotional states of I'm super excited or that sounds like death are not the only two emotional choices. But emotionally, when you hear option B the way I said it, how does that
Yes.
strike you?
It's interesting because I have this problem that I have many founder friends, and sometimes I want to tell them about my product, and they think maybe they could use it. Yes, but it's very niche, it's very rare, and
Okay,
it
but you're not
doesn't.
answering the question. How does option B strike you emotionally?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Are you like, oh yeah, hell yeah, something like that? Maybe it's marketing, maybe it's not, but yeah, yeah. Or are you saying, are you more like, I don't like that, like just emotionally, not rationally, not what happens
Emotionally,
when you
it's
talk to some
interesting.
random
It's
founder who's not
interesting.
a customer?
It's interesting. I would check it. It sounds like it's not hell yeah. It's not
Hmm.
sounds like boring, but it's interesting. I would love to check it. Like
Okay,
to
so
it's
you're not sure. That's fine. That's good. That's a good answer, I think. Like it's 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 more useful when you already know that you do or don't want to do it, because it eliminates or highlights the option. So it's great when it's exciting or
yes.
rejected. But obviously, it's valid and common to go, I'm gonna have to learn more before I know if I'm excited or not.
Yes,
Like that's very valid.
yes, I could do it, but I'm not sure. Like it's
Okay,
not
that's
like
a no, by the way, because you could do anything. You could learn how to play the clarinet, but you're not excited to do that, right? So But that's okay. You might get excited. It's totally true. But
Yes.
sometimes we're like, I don't know, and then you try it, and you're like, actually, this is cool. Like that happens all the time in life, right? So if the
Yes.
door's not closed, then what that means is it's a default no, right? Status quo is no. But if you're like, oh, but I'm curious, good. Then you go explore that because you absolutely could change your mind with exposure. So that's good. What about? Let me go back to option A real quick, which is incrementally run the current business or run the current business, incrementally improving it along these edges to make it better and be happy with the let's call it 30K a month profit with a very well run solo entrepreneur business. How does that strike you emotionally? Are you like, yeah, that's who I am, that's fulfilling, or are you like, no, didn't you hear me when I said I wanted to triple the company? Like that's not good enough. Like it,
Uh,
maybe it should be, but it
I,
isn't. Like how's option A strike you?
um, I will answer honestly. Like,
I
I'm
hope
tired.
so. Otherwise, what's the point?
I'm tired. Like, let's say, mm, not super excited. Not.
Yeah, of course. That's I mean that's what you said at the top. So I'm not shocked. It's still like the point of these options, of course, is we're trying to list everything on the menu. You're
Yeah,
going to end
yeah,
up picking something on the menu. Maybe you need to try it first before you know which one you want to order. But
yeah.
of course, you want as a big of a menu selection as possible. First, because the more choices, the more likely the right choice is there, and also because sometimes they intersect or collide somehow, or there's some better idea that wasn't on the menu. But just going through the things on the menu, thinking them through, and why do I like it or not, or what's the good or bad, just that can trigger some even better ideas. So it's always a good idea
Yes.
to put lots of options on the menu, even if you hate them. They're useful in getting to an answer that you don't hate. So okay, option A you hate.
Not,
Now
not hate, but let's say.
no, but let's just yes,
Let
like it is. It's
us know.
unfulfilling, and you do hate. I mean, it's funny
Okay.
for me to tell you what you hate, but let me explain what I mean though.
Yes, yes.
You would be unhappy if for 5 years that's what you did.
Oh, it's pretty good. Yes, it feels like that. Yes,
You would
yes.
feel like you wasted 5 years of your life. In fact, maybe five of your best years.
It's a good framing.
How
Yes.
old are you right now?
30, 34.
Right. So these are your best years because you were old enough to have experiences and some wisdom, and but you're not old. You're not so old that you can't think properly anymore. You can't. Your attention span's lower. You need more sleep than before. Your body's starting to break down, right? Like you have a lot of wisdom, but man, you just can't. This and that. Now, I'm not a fatalist. Of course, there's lots of things you can do to make it better or worse. But like also, as Seinfeld says, Father Time is undefeated, right? So it's not good news. So you are in a what you might say 30s are probably some kind of a optimum, and so you don't want to spend the next optimum 5 years incrementally running this business. Whether other people agree or not, or what they think about you, that's how you feel.
Yes, yes. It
And
feels
that's why
like.
you would hate it because even after the fact you'd look back on that saying I could have done anything else with those 5 years, even something that would fail. At least I would have been doing something instead of puttering around for 5 years
I,
in this mode. So okay, so option A not exciting. Now what is interesting about that though, if I'm going to digress a little into option A, is it is the easiest and clearest path forward is run the current business and make it a little better. Like clearly, that's the easiest and clearest thing to do, right?
yes, yes.
But you don't want to. So what's interesting is either you'll pick something else to do with this business, like an option B, or let's think of more options too. But you might decide, I don't like any of these options. But
Yeah.
what's nice about option A, in general, is it's very clear how to do it. And so, if I were to sell this business, or otherwise, or maybe I don't sell it completely. I get a new partner, and I peel off. Or there's different ways of divesting yourself of the business, but still having some financial benefit, right? This is a business that someone else could run. It's one person could run it because one
Yes.
person is running it. Now that's a little unfair because often one person, when the founder can run it, that doesn't mean that and just some random person can also run it. Of course, that's not what it means. But someone else who's also founder material, let's just say, could run it because you've built a business that makes $250,000 a year in profit that one person can do. One very talented, devoted, experienced person, yes, but still, that's freaking amazing. And there's many, many, many people on Twitter who wish they were in that scenario. Good. Maybe they should be. Maybe they should run this business. And there's lots of ways to do it. Maybe you continue to get a salary essentially off of it, and it's funded that way. Maybe someone does buy it, because that does happen, of course. Or maybe it's some combination where they give you some money now and some over time as the business supports it. And that way you can get enough money in total, but not all at once because that person can't afford it. There's lots and lots of ways that could go, but let's not try to solve that right now. Let's just say there's ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you've built a business where, okay, it's not obvious how to get it to 100K. Maybe it's even impossible. Maybe. But it sure as hell can go from 30 to 40. And
Yeah.
I would say from 40 to 50, like you said, not with the current customer base, but there's enough use cases, enough ideas. You could get some other better customers, not completely transforming the whole business, but just incrementally, and get it to maybe 50K and 30K in revenue and 30K a month in profit. I believe that entirely. So that's an ideal business for many, many people. So that's one of the great things about Option A is there's other people who would love that. That's good because that gives you a way out if in fact leaving the business is what you end up wanting to do. So I suppose we could call that Option C. Option C is sell the company or otherwise leave the company, but don't leave the company and get some sort of payment for that. Like I just listed different ways you could get payment for it, so we won't try to stipulate what that is. But Option C is you're like, you know what? I just don't want to do screenshots anymore. I've done it for 4 years. I'm tired of it. But this
Yeah.
is a good little business. So I want out, but I want to get paid somehow. That works and is fair. But I want to move on. I don't know move on to what. But I'm just done with screenshots. I just don't want to do screenshots anymore. Like even if I could do that stuff with the markers, I just don't want to do screenshots anymore. So how does that strike you when I say that? When I say I just don't want to do screenshots anymore, do you think, yes, exactly. That's exactly how I feel. Or you're like, no, I don't hate screenshots. I just need a product that's working better.
This one, it's interesting because even if we talk about option A, yes, this one is the most exciting in a sense. It's
Option
interesting.
C?
Yes, kind of. I feel like I can kind of, um, transform myself to like it for more time, But it feels like if we talk long term, like you said, about 5 years. Let's say if I still run this and I still do option A for 5 years, okay, it's cool, it's nice, small business as you said, but it feels there's so much more to do.
Okay,
Yes,
and then what's the answer to the question?
yes, see,
No, but my question was emotionally when I said, I just don't want to do screenshots anymore. Are you like, right, that's how I feel. I just don't want to look at it. I just don't want to think about a screenshot ever again.
no. It feels. I can do it. Yes, I can do it.
I know
It
you
feels like
can do it. You can do anything. You can learn
yeah.
to play the clarinet. That poorly, probably. So please don't do that.
Uh,
When
am
I
I
say I
excited?
don't, when I say, God damn it, I never want to see another screenshot again, are you like, hell, exactly right? Or do you say, no, screenshots are fine. I just need but this product, meaning the market and the customer is selling, this product isn't working, and that I can't abide. But no, screenshots are fine. It's just I need a market that's working.
Yeah, so it's fine. It's this one resonates more with me. Yes, like it's fine. It's okay. Like it
It's
just
fine. Okay.
probably if yes, like
Here's why that's important because I did hear you that option C, sell the business and just do something else, is most exciting. Gotcha. But here's why this emotional thing is important. If you were to say, I'm just done with screenshots, then that means option B is also off the table. But if you say, I'm done with this product, but the technology and my expertise, that's fine. Then option B is still on the table. Because option B is, of course, not really selling screenshots. It's selling regression testing to marketers or whatever, some other idea.
Yes, yes,
Screenshots just happen to be how you deliver that value.
yes, yes,
And so if you hate screenshots themselves and you ever want to do screenshots again, then you don't want a product that's still doing that, right? But if you're like, no, 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 that's fine. I just don't want to sell the product of API screenshots. I want to sell a different product. The screenshots, that's fine. I would say, oh, good. Then option B is still on the table because you just said there's so much else to do. Right. If there could be something else to do that's unrelated, that's fine. That's option
yeah,
C. Option C is
yeah,
get rid of it so you can go do the unrelated thing without being distracted
yeah,
by this company, right? But it could be that the totally something else is still something where your current expertise and technology helps you get an edge. So, like, it could be that the next thing you do is play the clarinet, but then all of your current experience doesn't give you an edge. So you're
yeah,
just like everyone else who's learning to play the clarinet, except you started late. It's actually kind of bad, right? Whereas if you do something that leverages what you currently do, you're ahead of the competition, right? Because
yes,
you're leveraging some asset that you have, which is your experience and your tech and all this stuff. So if you don't hate screenshots per se, then option B is still possible, because that could be that next totally different product that just happens to leverage the stuff that you are an expert in, and thus you can build that product quicker and better than a competitor who also had the same idea or wants to copy you, right? Because, like, let's say you did the marketing thing and now it's January of 2027 and now the marketing thing is out there, and then someone else goes, oh man, that's a good idea, that's easy to do with Claude, and then they build it in Claude. They're wrong, because as you know, screenshots are actually really hard to do, and get rid of all the bugs and all that stuff is actually quite hard. And
yeah,
so they don't know that. So while they're struggling for the next year or two to get the bugs out, you're adding the next feature and the next feature, and you're just way ahead. You see what I mean? But why? Because
yes,
because you're leveraging this asset and experience that you have, which is this knowledge and tech around screenshots. You're leveraging that, so that keeps you ahead, at least for a bit. Like, okay, it's not, you haven't like
yeah,
invented Uber or anything, but this is good. This is a good kind of strategic advantage. It's good. So this is what I mean. If you don't hate screenshots, option B becomes possible because that is a different product, but leveraging something you have, thereby making a great strategy for you, as opposed to option C, which is, I got to get out of that. I can't look at screenshots anymore. It's the end. I just can't. I'm burned out on screenshots. Okay, then you need a clean break. That's that. So what I'm hearing you say is option C is the most interesting thing because there's so much more new stuff. But option B is not impossible, because maybe that new thing that I want to do, maybe if it could leverage what I already have to give me an
yeah,
advantage, okay, like, yeah, I guess that would actually be even better.
yes, 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 yes. It's
Okay,
interesting.
all right. So we've established,
If a plausible option B exists, like if
yeah,
it exists,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, the bottom line is you said you said option C is exciting because there's so much more to do, which I took to mean there's so many other product ideas, company ideas that you could be doing that you would have a lot more excitement for. Is that right?
yes, yes. It feels like also like when we talked after the whole conversation. For me, it's obvious now that option A it would be like we wouldn't have this talk probably. There's like option A just continue to do whatever I'm doing. It's like
Well, option A is not to continue doing whatever you're doing. It is to incrementally improve the business. So, like, you weren't thinking about, or right now,
ah
you don't have an outbound campaign where you've identified people who
yeah, yeah,
send
yeah,
emails with
yeah,
screenshots, and you've identified a group of 1,000 of them, and you're targeting them with a marketing campaign to try to get more of them. You're not doing that right now. So I'm saying you could. So option
yeah,
A is, yes, run the business, but get much more targeted and tactical about how you're incrementally improving it, so that you
yes,
do bust beyond this 30 to 40K of revenue ceiling. And I can stop sharing this, I guess. You do bust beyond that ceiling. You're not going to get to the 100K probably, but you get past this little lump because you're being smarter about identifying these valuable use cases, targeting them better with marketing, segmenting out the customers that are temporary, You're happy to have them because they represent a lot of revenue and profit every month, so no problem. But you get much smarter about who you're targeting, where you're spending your time and money on, and support and features, so that you do evolve the company in a way that gets past this this current plateau. So option A is not running the companies now. It's everything I just said, being a lot smarter about incrementally running the company. However, I agree it probably doesn't get you to 100K because the markets just aren't there. Right? There's not that many good markets, or there's not any good markets. There's just little pockets of things. But you could
Yeah,
still be smarter about it. That's option A. But I still hear you that you don't want to do it. No problem. I just want to be really clear that option A is not just running the business as now. It's more than that. It's just I hear you that you say yes, but I don't want to do that, right?
yes, kind of, yes, yes,
But the
yes.
next person, if you were to do option C and sell it, you would expect the next person to do option A, not run the business as it is now, but do option A, run the business but better.
Yes, interesting.
So, okay, option A is that, option B. So, I guess we won't do this now, but when you say there's something new I could do in the future, what what I would do as you think about what that could be, if there's a way for screenshots to be a part of it, if even a small part, like the marketing thing, that will give you an advantage, and so that would make it a better product for you. So it's not a
Even if,
requirement that you do that, of course. Of course, it's not, but it would be better because it
yeah,
would be the more the more you leverage experience and even technology that you have, the more that strategy is correct for you, and the more it's something you've never, none of it is something you're talented at or good at. Well, it's not clear why you are even doing that. So, right? So, of course, that's not a hard and fast rule. I'm just saying that would be better.
yes, yes.
So before we were talking, you were about to talk about AI and how that changes everything. So I'm guessing you're going to tell me because of AI agents, AI needs screenshots. Therefore, if you were an MCP server for AI getting screenshots, that would be potentially amazing because then AI could use it a lot, even more than people know, the users of them know, and that could be a whole nother way to have the current API product breathe new life because it's a brand new use case. Is that what you were going to say, or tell me if not, what is the AI case you were going to make about how that's going to change everything?
That's no, no, no. That's how I thought. Let's say maybe 6 months ago that it could change. But then I had customers who were using screenshots within Codex, Cloud Code, and with agents, and then I realized, okay, so they also there's like it's just a tool, like they're using this through a tool, and there's like no one use case. It's not like this AI agents. It's not a use case actually. Also, after we talk about all this, like I see the same example, marketers are using Codex and then use screenshots for some analysis of some websites for a short period of time, and then they churn. It's not like it's kind of changing. I see many new customer profiles like product managers, marketers, designers, but it's not like they also churn a lot, and it's not like some repeatable, scalable. Like I could say this is like agents, like AI agents use case, but it's not. It's not a use case because how people actually use it. It's just a tool. Like it's the same as I would say like
Yeah.
screenshot for Java.
Wait a minute. But do
Yes.
you have an MCP server
Yes. Yes.
and nobody uses it?
A few customers like they use it. Yes. Like but not like a lot. No.
And you advertise the MCP server? Like if I search on Google for MCP screenshots, you're going to appear?
I don't know. It's a good question. I want to check this one. MCP screenshots. Um,
Well, let's see.
no, I think
This is
it's
going to
like
be fun.
yes. No, no, no. I'm not appearing here.
Okay, MCP Market. Capture and process screenshots with MCP. Screenshot is a dev tool. Okay. There's a
Yes,
GitHub one. Cursor Community has one. Take screenshots with Playwright MCP. Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
yes,
But you
yes.
have to have Playwright. So, okay, that's fair, but you have to have Playwright. Pulse MCP enables AI to capture and analyze screenshots from the desktop on demand.
No,
Okay.
no, this one. Oh, it's desktop. No.
All right. Guide to taking screenshots with a server. Page pixels. That's fun. Okay, let's just for fun see what this is.
Yes, yes.
Learn how to connect. Let's see. Uh,
Yes, it feels like
yeah,
a
this
browser.
looks like you, right?
Yes, it could be. Yes, yes.
Okay,
It could
so
be.
this is a competitor,
Yes, yes.
and and you're not there. I didn't see you yet.
Yes, yes.
Let's see, where are you? They're there. There's a lot of people chatting that didn't say you. You're not on the first page, which means you're not there. So,
Yeah,
okay. So obviously Google's not the end all. In fact, it's much more likely people would search, I think, in AI for this, right, rather than Google. So let's
yeah.
just say that little test is not conclusive. But what I would say is you're probably not giving it a good try yet,
It might be.
right?
Yes.
Like like what I would want to hear from you is, while I have 30K of MRR from human beings doing screenshots, and maybe I can go to 40K, stuff like that. That's fine. Here's where the magic is. If I can get someone to configure an MCP server in their AI system, don't even say the word agent. It doesn't matter. Codex and Claude Code, maybe it's an agent, maybe it's just their Claude Code project. I don't care. If I can get them to do that and I can get them to wire that up, then AI just uses it. Like the person may not even asked for a screenshot, but the AI
Yeah.
decided I need a screenshot, right?
Yeah.
It goes off and gets
Yes,
one,
yes.
right? And so that's the future, because how many people are going to do that? In the future, everyone, whether they know it or not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, or whatever it is, an unthinkably large number of people are going to be doing stuff like this. Like even just saying what's the size of the market is sort of silly. It's like, I don't know, like a lot. And so the question is, when someone searches for MCP screenshot, I need to come up so that they do it. Because if
Yes.
I can get embedded in thousands and then tens of thousands of projects, yes, many of them are temporary. Yes, many of them only do 2 screenshots a month, and so they'll stay on the free plan or whatever. But that's the future. That's how I'm going to get in the future. And and actually, like maybe sometimes people for months don't do much, but then suddenly they just happen to do something with AI that requires a lot of screenshots, and so they end up paying me that 1 month, you know,
Yes, yes.
right? Because their credit card's on file. So that 1 month they run up a bill, but then the next month then they're not anymore. But they're a customer in the sense that they have an account with me. I have a more flexible pricing plan where it's pay by usage with a free tier. So most of the time it's free, but then they use if it's variable, fine. And when that's plugged into AI, it's easier for that to be variable, and it's easier for that to just stay in.
Yes,
In
yes.
fact, if person A configures the system and person B uses the system, person B might generate a lot of screenshots and not even know it, because person A is the one who made it, and person B doesn't even know exactly what the AI is doing or why. That's fine. This is the future. You could say I'm just very verbosely describing what this strategy is, what this future is, this view of how the company
Yes.
could transform. And so, step one of all that, of course, is when someone intentionally searches for MCP screenshot, you got to show up so that they pick you,
Yes,
where
yes.
they even have a chance to pick you. And you're not really like intentionally doing that. So it's possible that AI does save it, and AI does get you to 100K and beyond, with being visible that way. Maybe you need a CLI as well as MCP, because a lot of people don't like MCP. But okay, clearly you can do all that.
Yes,
That part
yes.
is in fact not hard, actually, right? So
Yes.
you have all the ways. You have the MCP way, you have the direct API way, of course, which you already do. Maybe you have an SDK.
FCLR too, yes, yes. All
Yeah,
this
you have an
stuff.
SDK for TypeScript and for Python, so that AI could get it that way.
Yes.
You have a CLI. Okay, so you have all these different ways that AI likes all these ways. so that no matter how you do your AI, there's a way, an easy way for you to wire it up, and then you promote it that way. You market it intentionally that way to try to get people to do that. And those Reddit threads that I just saw on Google, you need to come up there. And if you're not, then you need to say that you need to be watching Reddit and answering. Eventually, hopefully, other people do that for you. Of course, that's better. But this is what you would do if this. So let's call this option D.
Yeah.
Is it's the current product under the hood, but it's AI. AI is the future. AI is the way. So the current business will still be there, and it's
Yeah.
how you're going to maintain the business and maintain the profit, and maybe go from 30 to 40K just by natural activity. Under that's fine. But option D is yes. I'm not going to stop doing that, but the way this company is going to get to 100K is AI, including AI, which means I need every integration possible. I need to be visible in a marketing sense in every way, in those AI ways.
Yes.
I need to
Yes.
talk about AI. I need other people who are influencers in AI to talk about me, all that kind of stuff. That's what needs to happen because I'm going to grow through AI integrations and a pricing plan specifically for that, which probably is again variable so that people can use it as much or as little as makes sense or not. Like I don't know, you'd have to talk to customers to figure out what the right pricing plan is, but maybe something like that would make sense. So it's easy for them to sign up, but also if AI happens to use it a lot, you get paid. So this would be option D. And again, like what I just articulated is unlikely to be exactly the right plan of action because we just made it up, right? But something
Yeah.
along those lines where the strategy is get embedded in AI and let AI do the activity for you with everything else behind that, supporting that, integrations, pricing, and scaling, and so on. That's option D, let's call it. It's time to plug into AI. How does that strike you?
It's exciting. There is one caveat. Like I'm not sure 100% that it might work in a way because when I myself personally use Codex or Cloud Code, yes, they have access to my browser. They have access to all these tools. And how often do I really need screenshots in this use case? For example, if we talk about personal usage, yes, but if you talk about it's it's interesting. Yes, it's one of the options I would consider. At least because I didn't try
So
it.
what you just did is you
Yeah.
articulated a very good part of your sales pitch. In other words, your sales pitch to someone who says, "Why would I need that? I can just tell AI to take a screenshot." And you would say, "Well, let's think about that for a second. If it's on their server, they're not taking a screenshot. They're like pawing through the HTML.
Yes.
And often they're like, I got a 404 error. I get that all the time. Or a 500 error doesn't let me do that. Or it doesn't know how to
Yes.
render the site. Like all the time, it doesn't work. And
Yeah.
then you say, no, 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 but I can run it locally. And in my browser, it can take the screenshot. I would say, that's true. All you have to do is give it access to your browser, which means literally everything in your life, which is
Yes.
incredibly scary and in many corporate contexts not allowed, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And so in many corporate contexts that's not an option physically because they don't allow it. And just in general, that's not such a good idea.
Yes.
Just for a screenshot, it also has access to all your email and your bank. Just because you wanted to screenshot an Amazon listing, not sure that's a great idea, right?
Yes.
And so what you just did is articulate a sales pitch, which I like, a good sales pitch. I like it, but it did not answer the question, which was, how does it strike you in terms of emotionally? How exciting is that? Are you like, hell yeah, let's go do AI screenshots?
It feels like this. It feels like one of the most exciting options. Let's say out of four, it's pretty. I really like it, and because I didn't invest in it. Like I didn't promote it much. It's interesting at least to try, at least to be in the first position and to see what happens. It
Hmm.
feels. I cannot say it's like 100% yeah, but it's one of the top. It feels like it would be one of the top priorities to
If
test.
okay, good. If If you just went with option C and sold the business and never even tried for a week to do the AI, do you think later you'd regret not trying? Or would you say, I mean, I had a better idea anyway?
Um, I might regret because like this kind of product and this like step, a door in this AI experience, AI market, like I already have it. I can just open and check like how's it going. But starting from scratch again, like entering this, like AI agents and all this, I think I think it will be painful experience to sell it and then start again from scratch without anything, like
Yep.
from zero. Like it feels like I might not regret it, but it feels yeah, okay, regret, yes, okay.
Yeah, I mean, right, because starting from scratch, of course, it always sounds exciting. I mean, we're entrepreneurs, so like, of course, we like starting a new thing. Like that's part of what it is, right? And on the other hand, we remember, but most of the time, it doesn't work at all, and it's really
Yes.
hard. Even when it does work, it's really hard. It's a hard scrabble. Like to get to where
Yeah.
you are now is hard and unlikely. So doing that again is like it's really exciting, and also, god dang. Again,
Yeah.
like, oh man, I don't know. I already got here. Do I really have to start over? So it can be, again, emotionally, it sounds like you're on the fence there because it is exciting to start over. But you also see that emotional thing of, man, I have all this. Like, if that next thing could still be this thing, but pivoting, that would be way easier than, like, it sounds like you're also there, like, and again, like, it's okay not to really know. I mean, it's a good thing to ponder, right? It's a good thing for you to continue to ponder because it's the right question. Okay, so what's nice about option D is you can absolutely right now go try it and do better than you were doing. In other words, right now you could go through the top or you could go through the first, let's say, 3 to 5 pages of Google listings and Kaji listings and DuckDuckGo listings for this, see what kinds of things show up, and start to get a feel for like, what would I need to do? What do I want to do? Where do I need to be seen? Should I go talk? Should I go leave a comment on one of those Reddit forums today? I
Yeah.
just, probably won't work to leave one comment, one forum. But if it's the third search result on Google, it might be worth it. Is there now? Here's where I do actually think that with AI coding, you could do some things very quickly. Like you have your MCP server, but maybe it needs better documentation or a certain GitHub
Yes.
repository. I don't know. Well, with AI, you could get all that real fast, right? Maybe you
Yes.
have it already, but if you didn't, you could do that really fast. Same with a CLI. Oh, I also need a CLI. You could do that in an afternoon with Claude because you've already done all the other work, right? Because you already have the API, you
Yes.
already have
Yes.
SDKs, you already have
I have all
SPSer.
that
So like
also.
because
Yes.
of that, comma, you could do the CLI that Claude likes in an afternoon and put it up on a GitHub repository or include it in your existing one or whatever. Absolutely, you could do that in an afternoon. So there's some things like that where you could like, in a couple of afternoons, it could be really pretty solid in certain areas like integrations. You could also say, you know what, I'm going to have a plugin. Sorry, I'm going to have a Python package. I'm going to have a TypeScript npm package. I'm going to have maybe one other thing, maybe not. And again, Claude could, given that you already have all the stuff and it's just wrapping an API that already exists, Claude Code could absolutely make those, and you just get accounts with the right places
Yes.
you know.
Yes. Yes.
So in other words, you could have this nice array of integrations that people who do AI generally like, and I know you have some of these already. Whatever. I mean, by the end of the week, you could have those, or at least by Monday, you could have those, which is a pretty strong offering in terms of the integrations. And now getting the word out is okay, that's a little harder, but you could just start doing stuff. You have a big Twitter account. You could start tweeting about it. You could start tweeting at certain things. You could, again, you could get on some of these Reddit things. You could post your own things there. You could,
Yeah.
is there someone who also makes YouTube videos or tweets or whatever where they're also technical and I don't know, just the kind of, maybe you know them already and you could say, hey, I'm just trying to get this MCP thing off the ground. Maybe we could do a podcast together, or maybe just as a friend, you would make a tweet about it just because like we're friends and help me out. Like you could. So obviously, none of these things are quote unquote scalable or how you would.
Yes, yes.
Right? Of course not. But that's not what you're doing on step one. Step one is how quickly can I get a decent product together? Quickly, I think, in your case. And like, what could I do to test the waters? Just see. Can I drum up a little bit of attention? What is that like? And of course, then talking to those people. So you have some people using the MCP server. Now you need to talk to them with a structured conversation. I have articles on this and everything about how to do that to understand them. And again, you could do some of this, let's call it quote unquote, manual marketing. And again, if that generates even a little bit of activity, great. Like try to talk to them again, understanding this better. So you get a better view of like, what is this? What could this be like? So
Yes.
that's what I think of when I think of how would you test option D. You don't have to select it. But like in the next, so it's July 1st now. By the end of the month, could you have fully tested whether option D is good, and also also have in greater detail what is option D? Like we know what it is generally, plug into AI, but there's all these open questions. What for? How would I find customers? What language do they use? What kinds of integrations do I need? What use cases should I talk about that are more likely for people to actually need in the context of AI specifically? Because it's not necessarily the same use cases. So what are those use cases? The people that do use AI, why? And right? And so by the end of the month, could you know, here's what option D would be, and here's some answers to some of those types of questions that would fully articulate what option D really means.
Yes.
You could decide that's my goal for this month, period. I'm going to run the business the way it is. Obviously, like if there's something catastrophic, I have to fix it. I have to keep up with my tech support tickets. I can't stop doing marketing because this pays the bills. But other than running the business at just the lowest possible level that's not harmful to the business or your customers, every other second is going to be this month is going to be spent vetting option D with the kinds of questions I just said, so that I can decide A, what is option D? Exactly. What are we talking about? And B, am I super excited to go do that or not? Or after all of that exploration, am I like, yeah, I see it now, and gosh, no, I don't want to. Like, right? Like, that's possible, but like, maybe
Yes.
maybe you need to go see in order to find out, right?
Yes. See. See, I thought about option C,
Oh
like
yeah,
for
maybe
yes,
you need to go explore, and in order
yes,
to find out, like, what is option D, and do I
yes,
like it, right?
yes, yes. It's a good one.
So that could be a good plan for this month. Run the business at a skeleton level, basic level, and spend all of your time vetting option D, meaning that you're doing all these things I said. You're creating this full integrations. You're talking to people. You're doing manual marketing to drum up some attention and just seeing what that's like. How easy is that? What's the feedback like? You're interviewing both existing customers who use MCP and this new attention. You're doing interviews or otherwise finding out answers to all these questions. You're going to get a list of questions. You're going to make a list of questions. Again, I have that article about how to interview customers, right? So you're going to have these goals like the ones I just listed. You'll come up with your own as well, and then you're going to come up with your hypotheses of what are the answers to those. Half of them are wrong. That's okay. Then you're going to invent really good questions, and then you're going to execute that. This is what the article lays out, as I'm sure you know already.
Yes, yes,
So you're going to do that, and that's what I mean by vetting option D, right? Like you build the integrations, you get some attention, you do these kind of structured interviews. Even on Twitter, where it's not so structured, you can still ask these questions. Like if you've generated good questions with that method, right? You have again a big Twitter following. You can still ask some of these questions in general. Now, of course, asking in the general Twitter audience, you're going to get random answers. That's not very high signal compared to what real
yes,
customers. So, of course, you're going to modulate your what you do with that information accordingly. However, it's still information. It's still good, especially at this stage, that's still good. And you're leveraging something you
Yeah.
have, which is a Twitter following, to get some more information. So you can do that too. And so I just made up 1 month just because it's if you only did it for 3 days, you wouldn't really find out. And you don't want to be exploring for 6 months because it shouldn't take that much time and you don't have that kind of time and it just doesn't make sense. So it doesn't have to be the end of the month. It's just a convenient something like that. Something like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, something like
Yeah.
that makes sense to give it a good attempt, especially with interviewing customers because it's hard to schedule. Oh, I could do something next Tuesday. Then on Tuesday they don't show or they reschedule, right? Like that's what happens when you try to talk to customers, right? So you need calendar time in order to actually pull that off, it turns out. So that's what's in my mind when I say something like
Yeah.
4 weeks or even longer. But you could set an intention of like that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend all my time that I can vetting option D.
It expands like and like putting the business like on a slow burner, let's say. Like to
Right.
not. Yes, yes.
Otherwise, you don't have the time to really do it. You need to be doing
Yeah.
it for hours a day.
Yes, yes. I
Yeah,
have
because you're really
actually.
trying.
Yes, yes. Actually, I have all the stuff that you mentioned, like CLI, MCP, like integration page, like everything. But I never actually really promoted it. Like I never was focused on it. Like 100%. Like I'm just doing this stuff and that's it. Like I didn't do it that way. I just I shared a little bit here and there, and I found some customers and okay, okay. So it's like I didn't see it that way.
Yeah, and that's fine. And so you've already built it. So I think what you could do though is you could say, well, I built it, but now that I'm thinking as a marketer, I not only want to document there is this MCP, there is this CLI, there is this Python library. I want to convince someone to use it, which is
Yes,
different from just documentation. It's both.
yes,
It's both.
yes.
But like the headline of the page is different when it's just reference material versus when it's trying to convince someone to implement this for some reason.
Yes.
So when you get into the details of how the API works, then it's just technical documentation. Fine. But that's not what the homepage is. I say homepage, but the main page that you land on when you search for MCP screenshots isn't just a boring technical document. It's marketing.
Yeah.
So I think what you could do is say, all right, basically have all the tech. I'm going to take a pass now. I'm going to think about it as a marketer now and take a pass over that, saying, wait, how do I get someone excited about this, not just tell them what it is? And so again, maybe that's just an afternoon, right? Like does that have to be a lot? But you want to do that. That's going to be part of this. Is it's marketing. You're going to want to go to your actual homepage of the whole company and also talk about this. Maybe there's special landing pages for it, or maybe the MCP stuff is the landing page. But anyway, you're going to direct some traffic there somehow.
Yeah.
SEO obviously is hard to do quickly. That's one of its disadvantages is that you don't just rank really fast. Nevertheless, you could try by thinking about SEO for those very pages and also with things to write or maybe even guest post something because that might rank more quickly, right? But you could try to think how do I generate that way?
Yes, yes, yes.
But again, there might be a lot of more manual marketing because again, you're just trying to do it. You could even spend some money. Like the good news is you have good profits. You could decide to spend $10,000 in advertising for this. Again, not that you would do this forever, not that that's a great way to go. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. But that's not
Yeah.
the point. That's not what we're doing right now. We're trying to find out is this a good idea and what is the idea exactly, right? And so you could spend money, whether it's AdWords or something else, on something like MCP and screenshots to drive people there. Find
Yeah.
out. Then put a web chat thing there, a live web chat, so that when you drive them there, occasionally you actually talk to them.
Yes,
So,
yes.
right, these are all the kinds of things one does, including spending money to explore and discover. And you might say, "Oh my gosh, like I spent 5K and sure, I had some conversations that was useful, but that is a terrible way to get a customer." And I would say, "Yeah, I believe you." Right? But, it's a very different question to ask. How do I find out? Is a very different question than now, how do I have a repeatable
Yeah.
sales process. And by that, I don't necessarily mean a human being doing sales. I mean the process of marketing to find someone and then selling is closing them, even if it's all hands free, right? A question of how do I do a automated and efficient marketing and sales process is a very, very different question from, is this a good idea and what is the idea? And so think about
Yes.
spending money and time answering that question. It's worth 5K to find out, 10K to find out, given that you're so profitable that you have the money. It's worth that to discover, is this exciting and the next thing for the company? Or you might say, nope, this sucks. And now I'm sure because I put in all this time, I even spent thousands of dollars. Now I'm sure it's a bad idea. And that's fantastic to know that. You probably learned something else in the process as well that you can bring to the final decision.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay.
And it's going to be a slog. Like I think some of it's exciting because it's new, but well, at least now I'm projecting myself onto you. But I find that kind of stuff can be a slog. Doing the landing pages, testing things, getting ads, they usually don't work. Posting on Reddit and then people say nasty things. Um, trying to get other people to tweet, and finally someone does, and three people go to the website, no one talks to you. Um,
Yes.
and just it's such a grind. I know you know this, but it's such a grind. Like you have to ask 10 people to even help before one person helps. You have to run 1,000 ads before 10 people click.
Yes.
Um, it's just you have to beg to get customer interviews, even for people that are already customers. It's just a slog. So I know, but I think you owe it to yourself to do the slog and it's also a reason why it's useful to set a date because it's useful to know I'm doing this slog, but I'm doing it for 30 days or whatever, right? I'm doing it for 4 weeks. It gives you it's easier to do it when you know it's going to end. And at the end of
Yes.
it, I'm going to really know either this is the future of the company and I even know what that looks like, which is going to be freaking insanely amazing, or I'm going to say, I absolutely know that this is not one of the options. And now I have a better idea of what options are okay. And now I'm sure. And that was also worth it. So, time bound, being time bound helps you get through the slog part.
Yes. Yes. My brain is exploding from all these options. Yes.
Well, we only have 4 options. There's maybe more, but this is good.
Oh, D is kind of like it, it's a combination of some of them. Like it's A in a sense. Like I can still go like with A. Like
Yeah,
it's
but not
also
for the next month, you're not.
yes, yes, yes. Not for the
Right?
next
You
month.
need all of your attention on it's going to take all your time to do a good job in vetting option D.
Yes, yes,
You're going to be tempted to do option A because it's easier. I can hide in Visual Studio and add a feature,
yes,
right?
yes,
That's easier than trying to get a customer on the phone and ask them questions.
yes,
So you'll be tempted to go do option A because option A is smart. They're all smart. All these options are smart. That's why they're on the list at all because they're all fine.
yes, yes,
But but it but if you allow yourself to slip into option A, what you're doing is you're ensuring that you will not find out whether option D is a good idea.
yes,
You will do a bad job of it, probably conclude option D can't work. But that's but that you would have arrived at that decision incorrectly because you didn't really try. So that would be like the founder who makes a product and then makes 4 tweets about it to their 300 followers. Sales don't immediately appear, and so they go, "Oh, that's stupid. I'm moving on to my next idea." And then they think they're smart because they did 10 of these in a year. But in fact,
yeah,
it's dumb because what they did is just ensured they planted a seed and never gave it water, and then it didn't come up. And they're like,
yes.
"Yeah, but I planted lots of seeds that didn't come up." Okay,
It's an
no,
interesting point because in this case, it's interesting because like 1 month feels it's good enough period to invest time and to build something, but will I get like all this feedback, like from customers in 1 month?
maybe
Is
not.
it enough?
Maybe not. So of course, you will decide in fact what to do. I made that up as a stake in the ground because the answer
Yeah.
is not 1 week and the answer is not 6 months. So I put that as a stake in the ground. But what's really going to happen is just what you said. 3 weeks in, you're going to see the end of this timeline coming up, and you'll just decide. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
one more week's enough. Where you'll say, "Man, I got 3 customer calls on the books. Of course, I'm going to see that through. Of course, like we made up this deadline. It's we can do
Yeah.
whatever we want, right? So
Yes.
really, it's just a week is not enough. 6 months is too long. You need to drive to this result because you need to decide whether it is or isn't right, so that you know whether you're picking it and what it is, or you are selecting a different option and getting going on that other option, whatever it is. You don't want to be in this weird spot for 6 months. Also, again, I'm insisting you'll do what you want, of course. You don't have to do what I say, but I'm insisting that you not do option A. Okay, but if you don't do option A, you can't just do that. You can't just do nothing for a year and expect this company to be okay, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I know you know this, right? You got to work on the company. So for a month you can get away with that, not a year. And so this is again why I'm trying to time bound it because you do want to set option A aside, but you can't do that for a really extended period of time, or you'll ruin the company that you have. So
So, why did you say do not go with option A for a like? Why do you insist to not go with option A? Or I just misunderstood you. You
well,
meant
so I'm just explaining why I think a year, a month, or maybe two, you have to figure out option D, because I'm telling you to not do option A during that time.
yes, 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 yes,
And
yes.
but if you were to
Read
do
the
that for 6 months and just explore and ignore the company for 6 months effectively,
yes,
that's
yes,
not
yes.
okay. So that
No,
you
no,
need
no.
a time balance. It's okay to ignore it for a little while you work on option D, but that
Yes,
can't be a long time. So that's why I'm trying to. So if it ends up being 5 weeks, 6 weeks, of course that's fine. But I'm just we're trying to limit it to something like that, so it's not accidentally 10 weeks and
yes,
actually hurts the company in fact.
yes, yes. I thought you meant the option A in isolation, like do not go with option A at all. Yes, yes. I see. I see. I see.
Okay, well, this is fun, and maybe there's more options, but I always find that when I explore like this, some hypotheses I had are found to be true or directionally true, but now I have a better idea of exactly what direction. And half of them are false, which is very useful. And then there's all this stuff I never thought of that I then discover. And I don't even know what they're going to be, right? Like, definitionally, I
Yes.
don't know what they're going to be. So what I think is we've already identified 4 plausible options. Surely there are more, but hey, that's good. And I think in exploring option D, there will be new things that neither you nor I know at this moment. And whatever those are, those will help you make a better decision later, a more
Yes.
informed, confident decision. Because after all, if you find out this is also a bad idea for a product, you might be more certain that option C, selling the business, is correct.
Yes.
Because you're like, no, like the single best way to stay with the business was option D, and it's wrong. And even that's wrong. Even AI can't save this business. I got to sell it. Okay. Now you're way more sure. Like that's great because right now you're like, I'm excited about that, but I'm not so sure. If you could just get
Yeah.
more certain, that would be really great. So, or vice versa. You discover option D is super exciting, absolutely possible. And oh my gosh, and it's the answer. That's how we're going to get to 100K. We did it. Maybe. So I just think in the exploration, who knows what else you'll discover that will help inform that. Or it, often what happens is option E and F appear in the process of discovery, and those are better. Again, great. So I would, your mindset is explore, discover. So you're not leaping to a judgment. You're not making decisions about the future yet. You're exploring what is the truth, what's going on, how do people actually think, what do people actually do, what do people want to pay for, how do people pay for it. What, it's a discovery, not judgment.
Yes. Yes.
And so with that mindset, just for this time period, then you can go back to it. Then you go back to the other mindset, right? In this period, that's the mindset. You have the company running as with little attention as possible, and you're in a discovery exploring mindset for the next roughly 4 weeks, 6 weeks, to be open minded and discover about this thing. Even if the result is hell no, the only way you're going to confidently say that is if you have truly explored with complete open mind and excitement and right in that mindset. Only
Yes, yeah.
then, if you still decide no, will you be very confident in that. So that's the right attitude for this
Yeah.
period.
Yes, yes. I feel I need to feel it. You know, like it's an exhausted option. Like I tried everything to make it work, and it doesn't. Yes, and I
Yeah, I
didn't.
mean,
Later on, I
it sounds
didn't.
like there's nothing else that even plausibly could get you there. That's incremental, the option A, right?
I still would
This
check.
one at least is possible, so you got to go find out. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I still want to check customers, like to check every customer their use case, and maybe I will see some pattern again. Yes, but I didn't see it. Like it's yes. I still
Yes,
want to
you
make
can go
sure that
check.
I didn't miss
Yeah,
anything.
I would never say don't go check, right? Um, but
Yes,
I think you said it earlier. If it
yes,
was a clear one, you would just know that already because you would have 10 examples in your head immediately or 20. And you're saying, oh,
yes.
yeah, there's this. And since it's not, like, I don't know why poking around would suddenly make that appear,
I see your logic. Yes,
right?
yeah.
Now, sometimes it is the case in a bigger organization when any one person cannot see everything that's going on, right? Everyone has some fog of war in a larger organization. In that case, it's quite possible that there's this thing that's true, and yet you don't know that because you can't see that. You're not close enough to that thing to know it's true. That happens constantly in a big company. It's one of the difficulties in operating in and managing a larger organization is that you can't know everything. So
Yes.
then it's true. You need to dig and find out because maybe there's a pattern that's obvious when you look. But that's not your situation. You do literally everything. You see every support ticket. You talk to every customer who wants to be talked to. You see how they use the product. You get the feature requests and so on. You see it all. Now maybe you could poke in an interview more. Okay, maybe. But you see it all. There is no fog of war for you in that sense.
No, no.
So like if
Yes.
there was an obvious big pattern, how would you not see it? Like, why would you, quote unquote, looking be information you don't already have? Now, could there be a subtle, small pattern that you never noticed? Yes, that I believe. That I believe. But a subtle, small pattern, that's back to option A. Small pattern is not how you get to
Yes.
100K, right? That is how I would think about option A. Is ask, oh, this is only 5% of my customers that do this, but they're great customers. So maybe if I get more customers like that, then I could move that from 5% of my base doing that to 10% of my base doing that. It's still a tiny amount, right? But if those are great, profitable, long-term customers, then adding those, that's very good. Incrementally, that's how you get like, all right, now I got from 30 to 40, 40 to 50, right? That's how I do that. It's like I find these little pockets. Then going back to the metrics and really looking, that I believe that then I agree because that kind of subtlety isn't necessarily obvious when you're not looking, even when it's just you. That I agree with. But with option, but if we're talking about a big new thing that's going to save the whole company that's lurking, it's unlikely. So you should still go look for your own sanity because if you don't go look, you'll always wonder. I didn't look though.
Yes,
I
if I
didn't
mean,
look. I
yes.
needed. I could have been there. So I agree with you. Go look. I'm just
It's just
saying
for peace of
why.
mind. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just saying like, look, I don't expect you to find anything, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's like it's like also like to kind of close this option like A in a sense like to make sure like I tried everything like and now I see for sure and I have hard data to see that okay so there is no pattern I can actually see, but it's like yes it's on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we've been going for a long time. We're
Yes.
full. We have some good options. We know what to do next. So of course I'm excited to hear how it goes. So let me know how it goes, even along the way, or if you want to, poke me with questions or things you want to share separately, that's fine. But I'm really curious. I'm really, really curious to see how this goes. I mean, this is your life. This is your whole life we're talking about.
Yes, yes. I'm super grateful to you. I appreciate all this conversation, and it's my mind is exploding now. It's kind of
Oh,
there is
look,
a lot of information, and
yeah.
thank you
Well,
for all
you're
that.
welcome, and also I'm grateful to you as well because I mean, almost no one is willing to just go share all their numbers and do all that kind of stuff. And also, this is selfishly great for me because I can maybe edit this and put it on YouTube and get tens of views, maybe hundreds, and the way that's going to be great. Then I can finally retire.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, it was actually a lot of questions you asked, and like many perspectives I didn't think about.
Good.
Wow, thank you, Jason.
Well, I appreciate it, and let me know how it goes. I want to hear.
Will do, will do.
Okay. See ya.
See you.